I went to the illustrious Howard University that sits on the Mecca in Washington, D.C. I am a proud Bison.
Welcome to Fortune Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Elijah. Today we have a powerhouse guest whose story is going to enlighten you. Everybody welcome Atiera Jones. Hey, Atiera.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I might look tired, but that's because I started really, really early this morning with my day. I'm a not so morning person, if that makes sense. I like to get everything done, but I'm doing great and I'm feeling energized.
I'm
How you
happy.
doing, Jess? It's been a minute.
It's been a quick, hot, long minute, but I'm doing good. I celebrated my sister's birthday recently, so it's good. I'm right now tuning in from
Please tell
Las
me happy
Vegas.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm tuning in from Las Vegas. Where are you at right now?
So I'm located in Sunnyside, LA, Hollywood to be exact. Yeah,
I love
Hollywood,
that.
California.
I love that. So for the people that's tuning in, do you remember how do we know each other?
Okay, so I remember I met you working at MediaCom
Yes.
while I was on the PlayStation account and the Pokemon accounts. You were in the lobby. You were staff and admin, and you actually were a really great resource for me coming into the new job, into that new space, into that whole. That was a whole community of people at
Yeah.
that media agency. And then we connected. We also started a group with friends. I'm really happy that I met you.
I'm happy that I met you too. And we'll probably get into that later because I forgot about the group that you're referring to, but it was such a resource for us, especially as Black
Mhm.
women. So love that for us. So
Exactly.
taking it all the way to the beginning, what did you want to be growing up?
You're gonna laugh. I wanted to be Shirley Temple and Michael Jackson.
Please get into that for me. Please.
Okay, so no, as a child, I really wanted to be a star. Like
Mm,
I wanted to be a superstar. I wanted to sing. I wanted to dance. I wanted to act. Annie was one of my favorite movies, the
mhm.
original
Right,
Orphan Annie.
right.
And my grandmother also was a huge fan of the woman that played in The Wizard of Oz
Mhm.
and Shirley Temple. So those were regular films I was watching as a child before the entire animation of Disney was something
Mm.
that was brought to my attention, all of that. And one person she consistently played in the car, I didn't realize he was a man at first, was Michael Jackson. So to me, I wanted to be all of these women that I saw on screen, and I want to sing like the now that I know he's a man, the man that I was listening to all the time. So those are the people that I wanted to be. As I grew up, I realized, well, one, you can't be a man. Well, you can, but I can't.
It's 2024. Yeah,
Well,
I
I can't
agree.
be Michael Jackson,
Right.
and then two, Shirley Temple. Well, can't be a white girl
Okay,
either.
with
I didn't
curly
really want to be
ringlets.
white either,
Right.
right? But I really just wanted that superstardom. So my mom placed me in vocal
Mhm.
lessons. I had a blow pop commercial. I did a few things in the city of Boston where I'm
Okay.
from to kind of give me that feeling. I even modeled for a bit. And really my academics started showing up
Okay.
and my parents had me focus a bit there more.
Right.
I started grasping the world a little bit more and feeling like that just wasn't for me.
Got it.
But luckily, as I went to college, I found a way to still be part of that world without being the star, if that makes sense.
I love this so much. We have so much to get into with this, just with that. And it's crazy how long you can know somebody without knowing all the intricate details of their
Yeah.
life. So you mentioned Boston. Were you born and raised in Boston?
Born and raised in
Okay.
Boston of Caribbean descent,
Okay.
native descent, but if you look at my family, you would know that we're just so mixed up.
Yeah.
It was a bit. I mean, my grandmother has green eyes and long jet black bushy hair. To my friend, she's white. She's not a white woman, but it used to be a question like, "Who's that white lady picking you up?" I'm like, "That's my nana. That's
That's my
not a white
grandma.
woman."
Yeah.
But the whole racial background of America is
Right.
interesting and everything too. So
Right. And with that, what was your upbringing like in Boston? Did you have siblings? How did you play? How did you, you know, experience the world as a
so it's
child?
interesting. It's interesting. I grew up kind of like an only child for the most part.
Okay.
I am 8 and 10 years older than my two siblings. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. In fact, yesterday was my brother's birthday.
Happy birthday to your
He just turned
brother.
23.
Oh, happy
Yeah,
birthday.
proud of him. He's at shout out FAMU. He's at FAMU
Okay, period. Let's
and everything.
go.
But so I grew up. How do I phrase this correctly? I grew up adjacent to it all, like adjacent to poverty,
Mm,
adjacent to wealth,
mm-hmm.
adjacent to hood living,
Right.
and adjacent to, again, that more of the wealthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Just tapping back in on my grandmother's background, and just her lineage altogether.
Mm-hmm.
My family is from the city of Cambridge in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Most people recognize Cambridge for MIT,
Right.
Harvard, and Lesley.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of our properties and our homes are right in the midst of that community. We originally had farms.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandfather owned a bar and a laundromat. I still have family members that own businesses all around Harvard University and MIT. We still own our block that we live
I
on.
love that.
We sold like a few homes, but my family still has three nuclear homes that we all live in as a family there. Um, so growing up for me was interesting. If I can share a little
Of
bit
course.
more, I also grew up on both sides of the law.
Got it.
So my grandmother was one of the first women of color detectives for the city of Cambridge, and my mother was probably her number one prime suspect.
Wow. How was
So
that like?
ah, the dynamic between them was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised mostly with my grandmother until maybe about 6 years old when my mother was, able to have me. But the dynamic between there was always a back and forth between them. I hope they don't kill me for sharing this, but eventually, as I talk to more people, my story is gonna come
Of
out.
course,
So,
you're a star.
Mom, Nana, I love y'all. Forgive me. We gonna get into it. But so it was interesting, right? I would be with my grandma for one part of the year, be with my mother for another, and there would always be I don't know who to listen to,
Mm.
if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Um, but it worked out in the long run. Those are my two rocks. Those are my support systems. Like I did, and I did not grow up with my father, but I did grow up with a father,
Okay.
multiple fathers, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay.
My mom's been married twice.
Mm-hmm.
She's also been widowed twice,
Wow.
unfortunately. But both of those fathers also played a key role in my upbringing. They've taught me so many things. I really do appreciate both of my stepfathers. But and I didn't mention this, when she got married the first time, we actually moved to Miami. And a lot of my youth was spent there from like age 10 up until mid high school. And then she got married again and we moved to Virginia. And so I finished high school in Virginia, went off to college in DC, and then the story was mine, no longer
Right.
with my parents. But I grew up interesting,
Mm-hmm.
is for lack of better terms. Like I feel like I've gotten experience with all types of lifestyles and all types of circles. And even though as a child I didn't really appreciate all the moving around, as an adult I so appreciate it because it equipped me um, for life, how to deal with different people,
Mm-hmm.
from any tax bracket, from any type of lifestyle, religious background. My
Mm-hmm.
mom's also an ordained minister. I
Okay.
know that's interesting to mention after
All of
saying
that she came
everything
around.
before. So so my upbringing really just made me who I am today.
Right.
Truly, it gave me all of the tools. God gave me all the tools with that upbringing. So yeah.
I love the way that you see your upbringing, and it makes a lot of sense you saying this because you really do fit in with so many people. No matter where you are, you always know how to communicate with people, how to talk with people, you know what makes them tick. So that just makes so much sense. So with that,
Thank
where did you go
you.
to college?
So I went to the illustrious Howard University that sits on the Mecca in Washington, D.C. I am a proud Bison. And I would say that was probably the best decision I ever made in life, second to then relocating here to Los Angeles. Is interesting. The second stepfather I had,
Mm-hmm.
his family went to Howard.
Okay.
And I had an uncle who was once a professor at Howard, and Howard wasn't really on my radar
Mm.
at all. My mom is a Spelman graduate,
Okay.
and all my life I thought I was going to go to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and follow in my mom's footsteps, only to then learn that, or learn the differences between colleges and universities.
Right.
Um, Back to you asking about my childhood and what I wanted to be when I grew up. Well, as reality started setting in, as I started getting used to the world a bit more, my thought was, I want to make money and I want to start a business
Yes.
and I want to be a business owner. And I wanted to be a travel agent because my family is from out of the
Yeah.
country or all around the US, so to speak, too. And I'm just like, I always want to see my family. I want to make so that my family can always visit me or I can always visit my family. And I wanted to study entrepreneurship as if that was a major. It wasn't. Um, so I resorted to business. And at the time, Spelman didn't have a degree that would cater to business. Clark Atlanta University did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could join that consortium.
Mm-hmm.
But also in 2008, 2009, the accreditation for that university was a little finicky and up
Mm.
in the air at the time.
Right.
And once I understood what accreditations meant and what that would mean for my degree,
Mm-hmm.
I made the choice to start looking elsewhere. I stumbled upon Hampton University. I'll shout you pirates out. It's fine. Stumbled upon Hampton, thought I was going to go to Hampton, got a full ride to Hampton. Best friend went to Hampton. But once I visited the campus, I
Right.
realized it wasn't quite me.
Right.
It was a campus by the sea. Probably would have been good for me to sit my ass down and be there actually. But I decided one spring break to visit that uncle I mentioned, and he kind of showed me Howard at spring break. They were having their Res Fest. Well, what I know now is a Res Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was smack in the middle of DC, and it just resonated with me far more than Hampton University did.
Right.
And I just told him, I'm like, hey, I want to go here. I didn't get a full ride to go to Howard, by
Yeah.
the way. I got a small academic scholarship to go. So money was a thing. I ended up finding outside scholarships to make it. But Howard was my choice. I will never regret that decision. I believe everything since Howard has been because of Howard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sincerely, like, outrageously appreciative of making that choice. I think it's the best decision I made in my life.
And I love that so much. For me, I went to the opposite. I went to PWI, one of like the PWIist PWIs. So I always wanted to know, like, how was that experience for you culturally? Because for me, as I've kind of grown and I've met a lot of my friends, a lot of them from Atlanta, a lot of them went to HBCUs, and I'm just like, I feel like my whole like demeanor, everything happens for a reason, but like my
Yeah.
demeanor, sometimes even just like culturally, I felt like confidently, I would feel more confident rather, because you're surrounded by people that look like you, that people that are achieving at a high level, and people who don't think it's foreign to see a person that looks like you do so well academically. So how was that experience for you at Howard?
It was awesome, not just from a Black American perspective, from just a Black melanated person in the world, because Howard,
Mhm.
it accepts students from all over the world
Mhm.
that are melanated. So I got to meet people from Nigeria for the first time. Well, not for the first time. I grew up with some,
Yeah.
but of that caliber. Like I got to meet people from China, from Turkey, from South Africa, from Belize and Brazil.
Mhm.
Black people that I never in my like Boston is very multicultural.
Right.
Yeah, we are very West African and Caribbean
Yeah.
multicultural, right?
Yeah.
But the Europes, oh, the first time I met a Black person from the UK, I was like, what? Oh, like, okay, you're a Scary Spice. Like that to me, that's all
Yeah,
I knew, Scary
right,
Spice.
right.
Um,
Shout out
The
Spice
first time I
Girls.
met a black person from Paris, it was just amazing. So Howard opened up my mind, and not only that, I grew up Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Again, back to the fact that Boston was very multicultural with the Caribbean and Africans. Like I grew up with other spiritual systems around me,
Mm-hmm.
but it's deeper than that. Like there are so many different walks of life that we as black people live, and it's
Right.
not just like
It's
the
not a
American
monolith.
black perspective,
Right.
the Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
perspective, the West African or South African or even East and North African perspective.
Right.
I met Canadians that were like, it was just, it expanded my world horizon being at Howard, because I just was like, wow, I didn't know black people did this. Or, well, there's some things I didn't know black people did, because I'm from Boston.
Right,
I'm
right,
fully
right,
white.
right.
Black people do live a different type of way.
It's true.
But like, girl, I ain't, I ain't know about no yacht week. Like there's just so much. I didn't know about no Jack and Jill. Like I didn't know. There was just so many things that my world opened up to being at that school,
Right.
and I learned about incubators. I learned about like the Shark Tanks before it was ever a television. I learned about private clubs, private equity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was just an immersion that I will
Mm.
never regret, for real. Like it was, and if I could influence my children to go to Howard, I would love that for them. My brother did get into Howard. He
Congratulations.
decided he wants to go on his own path
Okay.
and forge his own way. He didn't want to always follow in my footsteps, and I'm okay with that. But I will never regret going to that school, girl, ever.
I appreciate that. So let's get into your career a bit. So flash forward to today. What is your current role or what are you doing?
So I work for myself.
I know that's right.
I call myself a consultant. If you ever find me online, I'm Atiera J, the consultant. Um, I used to be a corporate consultant for BDO. It's funny that I'm wearing this shirt right now, BDO Digital. Um, but I'm going to say that my career started freshman year at Howard
Mm-hmm.
University. Um, I was approached by a DJ that was hosting like a jam to move into the dorms, and for whatever reason, he saw me and said, "Hey, you girl, hop on the mic, tell them where you from, tell them about you." And me being spirited and just ultra excited to be at Howard, I started doing my whole business.
I know that's
Like,
right.
my name is Tia J. I'm from Boston, Mass. Y'all could come check me out. Blah blah blah. And everybody just kind of looked like, "You gonna be on the radio, right?" And I'm
Right.
like, "No." And they're like, "No, no, no. You just had the whole dorm party, and like you're gonna be on the radio. You're gonna interview." So I decided to do that, and I loved radio.
Mm.
Um, from a young girl who felt like her voice was silenced a lot in her home and in amongst her friend groups. Like this girl you see now was not the girl growing up. Radio gave me an outlet and it gave me a voice. It also gave me a chance to explore like music. I love music and I've
Mm-hmm.
always loved music, but going back to the fact that my mom became an ordained minister,
Mm-hmm.
there was a few things that were like taken away from me and I
Okay.
really wasn't allowed to listen to.
Okay.
So working at a radio station, I got to meet some of my favorite artists. I got to interview some of my favorite artists, and I would be the person that these different labels would hand their music to. So I got to get first dibs
And
on some
listen.
of like the greatest records that we know now, like March Madness and all the like. So and so being on radio though, I started getting really deep into entertainment, started writing, started hosting, started
Mm.
doing red carpets for different events. But I was a business student. I wasn't a communication student at
Mm-hmm.
Howard, and I did not quite know how to kind of marry my degree to my passion.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to make money with what I did, but I also realized that being a radio host, you start off kind of like a board operator for large networks. That's really only like $16 an hour.
Yeah.
That's not really any money graduating college.
Mm-hmm.
So what could I do that kept me, adjacent to that, but also had me use like my thoughts of psychology,
Mm-hmm.
math, and all my business applications.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led me to advertising and even more minutely marketing.
Okay.
um, Once I graduated, I went straight into finance because I felt like that was the only job I really could. I was a universal banker, but they allowed me to travel back to DC
Okay.
half of my week to go work on different projects like music festivals, work
Okay.
with the smaller labels like Board of Administration that Wale is part of, and DC, when I could. And all of those freelance opportunities,
Mhm.
I worked for the Recording Academy a bit. That's what first brought me to LA the first time.
Mhm.
Um, all of those experiences led me to pretty much bet on myself and relocate out here. And I started out freelancing. Girl, I was doing social media without really knowing what social media was. I was just playing with these people's money. So I was self taught in that
Yeah.
aspect. There weren't certificates and
Mhm.
courses for that quite yet. Um, from freelancing, someone called me that I met working a gig for Viacom,
Mhm.
doing the Streamies Awards, and said, "Hey, I just got this job at Nickelodeon." I'm like, "Okay, great." They're like, "But Uber needs some marketing people. Would you work in tech for a little bit?"
Mhm.
Decided to work at Uber for a bit. They That was an odd experience, but that's not too much of what made my career. All I was gonna say is while I was at Uber for
Mhm.
about those 3 years, I continued to freelance my digital marketing skills,
Okay.
working with small labels, working with artists, working with just creatives as well, and creative houses.
Mhm.
And that landed me my first agency position where I met you at
I
MediaCom,
love
working for
this.
PlayStation.
I love
So
this.
and from there, I want to say I never stopped freelancing.
Mhm.
Sorry, MediaCom, for saying
I know that's right. Mhm.
that. I continued to build up my portfolio,
Mhm.
I, with entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So once I left MediaCom, I was actually poached by Disney Studios. So I went to Disney. Um, and I started out their YouTube strategy.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a strategy that I owned myself, but I did learn about entrepreneurship and how to build things so that you can then sell it. But again, continue to work outside. So one thing I'm big on is travel,
Yes.
music, and
Yes.
marketing. So that's what I've built my company around.
Mhm.
I once had something called the Underground, which was a management, production, and marketing firm. I still have the Underground. It's
Yes,
just
you
no
do.
longer registered as a LLC. Um, I sound like I'm all over the place, and I really am though.
Not
Much like
really.
Issa Rae, I don't know if you remember her ever saying this. Like I had so many passions
Mhm.
that I delved into all of them.
Mhm.
Um, I also produced podcasts while I've been here. Plenty of them actually. There's a studio called Audio Up.
Okay.
Um, worked for them for quite some time,
Okay.
producing podcasts and working on their digital marketing as
Okay.
well.
I might contact you.
I just stayed in the realm of my passions
Yeah.
and trying to find a way to make money off of my passion.
Right.
So entertainment is what did that for me, and
Mhm.
focusing on the advertising, the branding, and the marketing,
Mhm.
and even public relations
Of
of a
course.
brand helped me with that. But I call myself a consultant
Okay.
because under the brand of the Jones Collective, I'm able to plan travel. I'm able to handle somebody's marketing and public relations,
Mhm.
and I'm able to help them with their personal and business finances. So I say consultant. If you want to chop that up into, oh, marketing consultant, travel agent, financial advisor, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to make it easy and just say I am a consultant.
Mhm.
And anything that you need, I can find the person to do it, or I can find the resources. And as far as contacts, I have plenty. I've planned out so many different occasions,
Yes.
dinners,
Mhm.
vacations, media, album rollouts, film strategies for people. It's insane. I love what I do. I
Mhm.
really do love what I do. Um, but I do work for myself. So if
Yeah.
I'm not working, I ain't making money, child. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's a give or take, but
Right.
I do love this freedom.
Right.
I love the flexibility, and I'm happy that I continue to bet on
Me
myself. I'm
too.
happy that I chose to move here to Los Angeles, surround myself with other people who are going out and getting it, following their dreams,
Right.
and not being bogged down of the reality that life can be. Because
Right.
not everybody's reality is doom and gloom. Some people's reality is
Our
I was
mhm.
born into a trust fund.
Right.
But I love being surrounded by people here who
Mhm.
choose to wake up every day and go out and choose their dreams.
Same. That's one thing I loved about, or at least, I'm always back and forth between Vegas and Los Angeles. So that's one of the things.
I like I like Vegas. Vegas to me is just a city that I don't quite understand yet. Outside of the
I
strip,
hear you.
outside of the
I hear
strip.
you.
Thank you for welcoming me into your home too. I'll never forget that experience
Oh.
in Vegas. I feel like through you, I learned the real Las Vegas, like
Mm-hmm.
outside of the glitz and glam that the strip can put on, the
Mm-hmm.
facade that is. And I learned that Vegas is kind of like suburban.
It's
It's
very
very quiet
suburban. That's the
outside of
thing.
that.
People are like, how is it like growing up in Vegas? I'm like, first of all, when we're growing up, you're under 21. So we're not doing a lot of the same things. Yes, there's like party buses is something that people do. You get limos for like prom. You do all these like extravagant things. But other than that, it's very suburban, kickbacks, you're chilling. So I'm happy about that. But Atira, the way that you just kind of glazed over everything, I thank you for being so humble, but I don't have to be humble on your behalf. So let me get into it because you're just going so fast. So let me just I just want people to marinate on some of the things you've done. So I'm just going to restate them. And then I'll
Okay.
ask you some questions along the way because a lot of the opportunities that you've created for yourself and you've been connected with have been incredible opportunities for incredible companies. And if anything, it highlights one, your resourcefulness, two, the fact that you're definitely a star because somehow you always find yourself in entertainment, and three, you truly are a businesswoman. So I know you're like, I wasn't being
Thank
humble.
you.
I'm just saying, but trust me, there's some people that would even want half the experience. So
Thank you.
I saw that you were a Jumpstart mentor in DC, right? Assistant music
Yeah,
direct
I was.
assistant music director at WHBC Radio at Howard. So for many years, VIP assistant to the VP of Legal Affairs at Revolt Television. You were
Yeah.
NBCU intern. That's NBCU
Yeah.
Universal, an editorial intern at a magazine. Obviously, you worked on social media for so many different like films, like artists, records, and then for media, how you got into agency life. So Uber, working as an account specialist, MediaCom, where we met. You already mentioned you were working on the search team, on PlayStation, paid search and social for Disney, head of audience, insights and growth at Audio Up, analyst and strategy consultant. You are a founder and a curator. And this is not even everything. I just couldn't fit it on my notes.
I
So
actually didn't put anything on LinkedIn either because I just felt like it was a little overwhelming, and I struggled some time for listing like opportunities that I had that weren't necessarily paid either.
mm,
Because sometimes I was working for people pro bono
mm-hmm,
for free, and then maybe later they'd give me like a lump
of
sum money
course.
for that. So I've had a lot of experience in different things. I like outside of entertainment, I even worked for a day hab facility,
Okay.
instructing adults with developmental
I
disabilities
love
on
that.
how to prepare themselves for the workforce. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've done a lot of
So, how did you get connected to some of these opportunities? Because some of these stuff was even before you moved out to LA, which we'll definitely get into. But did they find you? Did you put it out there? Was it your networking? I know you're such an amazing people person. What do you think connected you to these amazing things?
networking for sure.
Okay.
So remember, I grew up in so many different
Yes.
places. Once I got to Howard and I was on the radio,
Hmm.
really that opportunity at WHBCU and being a personality really opened up the
Got it.
floodgates. Like once you have a platform and tied to such a great school, it's
Hmm.
also tied to I don't know if you're familiar with WHUR 96.3 FM,
Mm-mm.
but that's one of the first Radio 1 stations in DC as well. That's Kathy Hughes, home of the
Wow.
Quiet Storm,
Okay.
that everybody emulates when it's late night radio, when they want to do that,
That
play your
voice.
D'Angelo's and
Yeah, yeah.
whatnot. So, and my mentors there were some of the original, like some radio heavy
I
hitters.
love that.
So let me just say that Howard University also has an incubator of entertainers
Mm.
and just entertainment culture
Mhm.
and industry opportunities
Mhm.
there. I'm also part of a fraternity called Industry Power Players,
Okay.
where we are a private society, so to speak, where we
Mhm.
share connections, contacts, and opportunities
Mhm.
amongst people who've made it into the fraternity as well,
Okay.
who want to do certain things in entertainment.
Mhm.
So I can't sit here and say it's all me. Like, yes, I did network, but I do believe first and foremost being on the radio and having that platform
Yes.
consistently reaching out to people for different interviews and them kind of hitting me back on something. Well, I like this interview. Like, do you do this? You were very smart. You sound like you're into XYZ. Would you be open to doing blah, blah, blah? And just always, not always saying yes, but being open to it kind of opened up a lot of different doors for me.
Okay.
And I'll also say, like, my networking wasn't always up. I think when people think networking, they're like, let me find the most successful person
Right.
and take gems from them. One thing I learned early on being at Howard is there were people around me successful.
Network
So my left
across.
behind.
Yes.
So I networked across. Um, there were friends that had their own magazines, friends that had their own platform, DJs and campus artists that were doing things that were maybe not getting national recognition just yet, but local recognition or even just campus recognition or recognition within my class at Howard that I'm just like, hey, you should let me do this for you. Or, hey, we should work together. Or, hey, I can manage you. I'm not charging because I don't even know what that looks like yet. But like, let's do this together. Let's travel together. Let's work on different projects together. And I would work a lot with my friends. And when that friend became successful, I became successful. When I became successful, that friend became successful,
Yes.
if that made sense. So we always circulated the opportunities, the contacts, the connections, everything amongst each other. And again, the WHBCU was really the initial start.
Got it. That was like the main turning point for things in your career.
Yes, because the record labels, the studio networks, they would come directly to that station to advertise their opportunities or to find people within the organization already. Like, hey, y'all have a solid promo team. Like, do y'all want to do promo for this film, for this artist, for this event, or what have you? So it kind of just opened up the doors. And once you start meeting, I feel like networking is a continual domino effect,
Right.
right? You meet one person, you meet the next person. You do good work, they want to introduce you to the next person.
Yes.
You make it through this one door, these three other doors open up for you. So it's a continual thing. You just got to be there, you got to stay ready, and you got to be present and be equipped.
Yes.
If there's a skill that you feel you don't have, go out and learn it. YouTube is all plentiful. Google is plentiful. A lot of the stuff that I do today has been self-taught, and then I later found a form of education to give myself the credentials and the backing to stand on it
I
if
love
I
that.
didn't quite have the experience yet. And then not only that, I had people to vouch for me who have worked with me before. And again, that is a domino. It opens up the doors for you. So open up your mouth.
I think,
Like,
yeah.
open up your mouth, be present, talk, meet people, say hello, let them know who you are. And it doesn't have to be I'm a big me and little you at all. It could just be like, I'm me, I do this, I really enjoy that. I would love to work with you.
I think this is such amazing advice for everybody listening. It's a mini masterclass on how to do that. I think a lot of times people want to kind of like, okay, anybody that's not like where I want to be, disregard them. Let me look at the top. But no, look around you. There's people around you doing amazing and interesting things. And as you help one
Yeah.
another, you can share those resources, learn, and then have a body of work that you can then use. And then just opening your mouth, as you said, just going up to people, talking to them. Hey, this is what I'm into. I see you're doing this. Can I help you? And being willing to work for free. I know that's like so frowned upon, but
I know it
it
is. I
should
know.
no, but the thing is that that's opened an amazing door for you. It was an investment that brought amazing returns because I didn't know that you were so
Yeah.
self-taught even in industry like Uber, they're paying you, Mediacom, they're paying you, Disney accounts, that's going to pay you. So it all did.
Those contracts outside of them, they was paying.
Okay, so it does
They
pay
was
off.
paying.
Even in how I started
Yeah.
my business, I started off like, doing a lot of things for free. And then when I kind of got to a certain point, I'd be like, you know what? This is a cool person. Like you working with the president, you're working with Kim Kardashian, you're working with all these people. Yes, let me help you with your film. Yes, let me help you with the marketing on that. And that indeed opened doors. Obviously, like it does give you experience. And, it's not to say like, oh, you can't be strategic about it or it shouldn't be looked away. But sometimes you have to look beyond just monetary because you might get experience, you might get network that's irreplaceable. Most of college is
Let's see the value in the opportunity.
right. Right. So I think if you evaluate certain opportunities, it's not a bad thing to work for free, especially if you're not doing anything anyways. Try it out, get the experience, and it's more than made a return. At least for me, looking at you right now being so successful, it's more than made a return for you. So I think that's a good advice for people. Don't work for free forever, but scope out opportunities, especially if it's like contract. I'm not talking about a W-2 job. Don't do that. But like, if you see a cool project, hop on. You never know how that can open doors.
And it does pay off. It does pay
Mm-hmm.
off financially as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, work for free, work for free, work for free, give away all your juice for free. No, just understand the value of what it is that you're doing.
Right.
Is this something that I can invest my time, energy, and skill set in?
Mm-hmm.
And will it come back to me? Or how will it come back to me? Is
Right.
it valuable? Is the way that it's going to come back to me, even if it's not financially and right now, is
Mm-hmm.
it, is that worth it for
Right.
me? For me, I figured out a lot of these opportunities were, and it paid off. Like, I don't think I have too many friends who work for themselves doing the type of things that I do that have crossed that 6-figure line
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
And the ones that have, maybe they've, taken a board or a position, a W-2 position for a long time, and they kind of built their name off of that.
Right.
So it's a unique thing. Like, you got to figure out your path and
Mm-hmm.
what it is that you ultimately want out of life. And is this going to bring me one step closer, or is it going to take me back? Can I bear it financially right
Mm-hmm.
now, or can I not? And is this the type of person that I want to work with for free?
Yes.
Because there are people where you start putting a paywall behind your services, and all of a sudden they like
Switch
want
up.
to devalue you and
Mm-hmm.
switch it up on you. Pay attention to that, because not everybody, when you have the juice, everybody wants to
Mm-hmm.
squeeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do they actually value it, or do they just want to sip?
Yeah. And I think that discernment is a major key. Discerning the opportunity, discerning the person you're working for. And then when you do show up, being sure that you show up fully as if you are getting paid, because that word of mouth reference, it really only takes one. And this country is so funny, especially in Los Angeles, where you don't know who people know. Somebody could be nobody today and everything tomorrow. So always do right by people. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but sometimes people do need to hear it. Like, do well by
No,
people.
they need to hear
Yeah,
it.
do well by
They need to
people.
hear it.
Because that's one thing I experienced in LA. There was a lot of just opportunists, being in even in entertainment, a lot of like influencers who would kind of like, how many
That's all
followers
good.
do you have? And if you were like, oh, I'm not really doing my thing on social for stuff, like I'll do social for other people, but for me, I'm just chilled out. Oh, and then they move on, but you don't know that like
Because it happens so
yeah.
often. It's fine.
I mean, at this
It's
point, I'm used
fine.
to it. It came to the point where I was like almost nervous, like to ask my friends for nothing. I just did. It was just so much opportunism or opportunist like vibes.
If they're really your friends, it won't even be an
It's
ask,
true.
really.
It's
Like,
true.
there was a time where, when I first moved out here, my homegirl knew that I'd be looking for work, and
Mm-hmm.
she knew specifically what I was trying to do. She came to me. She just was like, "Hey, my homegirl Kelly's hiring at Hip Hop DX for social media. I know this is something you've been looking for. I gave her your number. That's also how. That's uh, I've never applied for a job since living here in LA.
I need a moment of silence because the amount of job I've applied to. Oh my gosh! Shout out
I've
to
never
good
had to
friends.
like I mean, I've definitely filled out the application because someone just was like, "Hey, we want you. Like, you legally have to do X, Y, and Z." But like, have I ever like said, "Okay, I'm gonna try to get me a job at Netflix. Let me fill this out."
As in, your life is so sweet, Atiera. As in, your life is
No,
sweet.
I'm not, and I'm
Like,
not even trying to say like. I'm just saying like, talk to
yeah,
people.
it's true.
Use your network. Your network is, in fact, your net
It's
worth. Like, they
true.
will introduce you to people and opportunities that you've been looking for. Keep telling people. Like, just saying, I do this, I do that, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Somebody knows that person,
Right.
and they're gonna come to you and say, I know a guy.
Mm-hmm.
You want to meet him?
To be honest, I
Put on your
needed to
best
make
suit.
better friends in Los Angeles. I needed better friends. Luckily, I found you.
You needed friends.
Period.
Okay,
Just
there's a lot of
friends.
people out
Yeah, it's
here
true.
who are opportunists, and it's okay. I understand that's the
The vibe.
no, that's the thing
Yeah.
here too. But when you have friends, people who are invested in you as a person
Mm-hmm.
with nothing to gain from you but friendship,
Mm-hmm.
that also helps too.
It does help. And I think that's a shift I needed to make on my life, like as a commercial break to our conversation. I'm definitely a giver. So I would always be like showing up for people, working on their sets, helping them, reaching out. If they say they're looking for something, as soon as I hear opportunity, I will hook them up. But to be honest, I didn't receive that back from a lot of cases. So I learned like, okay, I actually didn't really have that many friends starting out. As time went on, I learned like to like, disconnect from those people and just kind of like connect with, yeah, you already know, Atiera. You already know.
No, because I'm like,
Yeah.
that's your juice.
Yeah.
Protect that.
Yeah.
Protect it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think you are such an amazing and special person.
Thank
And
you.
again, I'm so happy I've met you. I'm sorry that we weren't even closer of friends. I think I was focused on some of the things that really don't matter right now any longer. And not to like has nothing to do with you
Of
personally.
course.
I'm saying
Mhm.
like I didn't invest as much time into our friendship because I was so focused on trying to get to this place and that place. Sometimes I can be in my own world. That's a
Mhm.
defense mechanism that I grew up with
Right.
after being bullied for just how I am.
Right.
I don't even want to mention names on this podcast
It's
because
okay.
maybe they'll see it or
Yeah.
whatever. But I made friendships that weren't the best for me either, and I thought they were, and I thought
Mhm.
they were genuine friends, only to find out that they weren't.
Yeah.
For different reasons, nothing overwhelmingly has happened, but it's just like when it does happen, you realize that's not a friend,
It's
or
true.
that's not someone that acts as a friend. This is a taker. Even I'm generous too.
Mhm.
I may not be forthcoming always with the generosity, but like
Right.
once I feel like, oh, this is a cool person,
Yeah.
I don't mind sharing
Of
anything.
course.
But you realize that there are takers and givers in this world.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with being either one of them, but know your limits.
Yeah.
If you give too much, these takers will take all from you. And if you take too much, these givers will pull back from you.
Right.
So, just
Have that
find the balance or
balance.
whatever and find the people who won't deplete you
Mm.
and who will pour back into you.
That's a
So like
word.
if you pour out and you're sometimes when you pour out so much your cup gets empty, you gotta find the people who will just be like, oh, she's running on E, like
Right.
back into you too. Whatever it is, self love, opportunities, money sometimes, doing your hair.
That's
Just
a
the
gift.
word.
Wow, I think that alone is going to be so healing for a lot of people to hear, because sometimes they just think like, you're like, okay, for, the life principle of give what you want to receive. So I'm thinking, okay, if I give this, then eventually it's going to turn back. But the problem is where you're giving to, it matters. It really matters what ground you're sowing your seed on. So that was a lesson that I needed to learn. Luckily, the way life is set up, obviously I believe in God. Like I just know that, okay, eventually it's gonna come back around. Yep. It's gonna come back around, and like no investment is wasted. But I think this year of all years, especially, I'm making more conscious decisions of where do I want to invest my time. Because you know what's so weird? Sometimes the givers don't be finding each other. It's givers and takers. And it's like we need to connect the
No.
givers to the givers, to where it's like there's a mutual kind of sharing of love, support, connections, whatever it may be. So it doesn't feel like it's depleted. And for me, that's sometimes like you're saying, like, oh, you wish you had more time to spend. But I'm at fault too, because sometimes I would be so depleted that I just like will go into my little cave by myself until I feel filled up again and then come right back out. So it's a two-sided thing. So I appreciate you saying that, but it's two-sided. I
You need
could
time
be.
to recharge too though.
What do you
You
say?
need time to recharge. I said you need time to recharge
Yeah.
too, always. I'm a my interest in travel has to do with recharge.
Oh, you already
Like
know.
how I even wound up in Legos has
Yeah.
to do with recharging.
Yeah.
I needed to recharge from America because
Yeah.
what was going on at that time. I was like,
It's
child.
the way I traveled for
Um,
6 months last year because I needed to recharge. I was like, I'm out of here. I don't care. Booked a flight. I went to multiple countries. I was like, if it's one thing about me,
dude,
I'm always going to book a
and I wanted
trip.
to meet up with you
I
too. I really
know.
did want to go on that trip.
Ah.
I wanted
Oh,
to.
yes, because
I
I did
had way
invite
too
you.
many trips planned
Yes.
myself.
Hmm.
I wanted to. Actually, I got another trip that maybe I could invite you to if
Okay,
you
let
if
me
you
know.
want to come.
Yes,
It's
let me
it's
know.
it's, it's up to you.
Okay.
We'll be in touch about it
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, girl. Like I also think grace is something that we have to give ourselves at times. Like we want to be these bad A Bs, right? And sometimes that in itself, like forget people for a moment, that in itself depletes you
It's
too.
true.
Like it's okay to pause, recharge, and get back to it. I had to learn that sometimes. Um, I would say last year was kind of like that for me. I nearly lost my life, child, and I didn't even share
Yeah.
with people too much about it because to me it was a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through like a mental depression about it. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to like walk and really talk as I'm talking now again.
Yeah.
And for about 3 months, I was like bedridden. So
I did
I
not know
felt so
this.
behind at that time
Mm.
because all of my friends were still traveling. All my friends were still going to all the award shows and doing things. And I'm sitting here confined to this bed. All I can do is just watch the latest on Netflix. Shout out to Love is Blind. That's when I really dug into that show. And Game of Thrones. But like it's okay to recharge too.
Mm.
As long as you yourself know what like know the goal and never stop getting
Right.
to it,
Right.
then like that's success right there. Like
Wow.
I have a quote on my all my emails from Michelle Obama about success not being about the type of money you make, but
Mm-hmm.
the lives you change.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these opportunities I've shared with you, a lot of these experiences I've shared with you, yeah, they were for me for sure, but the next person next to me or the person behind me or the person I hired,
Mm-hmm.
like it was more about the impact
Yeah.
there. It was about reaching back and pulling somebody else through always. Like I never felt like any of my journey was actually for me. Of
Mm-hmm.
course it's for me,
Of
but like
course.
I never felt like it was for me because of like I don't think three of my cousins would have went to college had I not went to
Yeah.
college and shared about my experience with
Of
them.
course.
I don't think a lot of my friends would have relocated to LA had they not seen me come out here, quit my high paying job and like make it work for me out here. I don't think a lot of people in my community, my church, would have decided on going to not just college, but Howard or HBCU if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it. And I'm not trying to say like I'm the pinnacle or the reason or the role model. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
What all I'm trying to say is like my journey has never really, I've never felt like it's really been about me. It's been about like community
Community.
and just my role in the world and how I can give back. Even so, recharge
Yeah.
because from that, like it's gonna feel like a like heavy is the head that wears the crown or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of biblical references I can get into
Mm-hmm.
on this. But like you're a walking testament and you don't know who's watching you either.
It's
You
true.
never know who's watching
It's
you.
true.
So recharge when you need to because nobody can drink from an empty cup.
It's so true.
Not even you.
It's true.
So recharge when you need to. Like it's sometimes it's not even about you, but
Mm.
recharge.
I think that's an amazing message that people need to hear. First and foremost, so sorry that you went through that experience because I didn't even know until you kind of like briefly like mentioned beforehand. And I was like, wow, I didn't know you went through that. So I'm sorry that you went through that. Two things that kind of come to mind from what you've just said. Number one is purpose. That's kind of like what I've leaned into. I feel like when it comes to purpose, that's how, we try to show up in life. It's never really been about myself. Even this podcast, I'm like, this is not for me. This is for people who like, are trying to start over, people who have gone through things and they're like, man, I'm trying to see how do other people do it? Am I alone? Because a lot of people think like, oh, it's only me that's going through this. It's only me that's applying to a million jobs. It's only me that came from my background and they don't see it. But it's like, trust me, when you get to talking to so many people, even just hearing what you've shared already, you're not alone. You know what I'm saying? You're not the only one that came from maybe a difficult background with family or like who didn't really get to see that. You know what I'm saying? People are also going through that. So, and I think even with the clients that I choose, a lot of the clients that I work with, at least for films, tend to be social justice, people that are changing the way that people are living, be it criminal justice
I love
reform.
it.
Thank you. Be it politics, be it the way that mothers get to show up in the world and have care and be able to take care of their children. I lean into those because that in itself is recharging to me And the second thing is the taking time to recharge. It's crazy that, we live in a world where you could be so afraid to tap out. Even with all the, I never thought I would hear that from you with all your
Me,
accomplishments. Yes, your resume is long. So I never even
girl,
thought.
I didn't even have certain social media on my phone for a bit. Like I stopped. Like yeah,
Yeah.
no. Like if I'm ever in Lagos again, I'm not even on WhatsApp. Don't call me.
Take your
I'm
time.
out.
No, honestly, even in Greece, like when I first went in Paris and even Lagos and then Akwa Ibom State, like I really unplugged. At first, first graduating out of like school and stuff like that, there was a time where I was injured. I went through like a medical thing and I was so frustrated because imagine you're graduating top of your class, in high school and then top of your class in college too. So there's so many expectations and you also
Oh
have
yeah,
expectations for
pressure's on.
yourself. Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I said, oh yeah, pressure is on.
Yeah. So then to kind of go through something where you're just like, dang. And I remember my dad saying it's like it's not how fast you get into it, it's how well you get into it. And guess
I
what?
love your dad.
I mean, you basically family. I love you too. But at the end of
Keep going.
okay, yeah. I was like, let me get through this and then please tap in. But it's one of the things is like it's not about how fast you get into it, it's about how well you get into it. And then knowing that like God can restore the time that you lost. Like sometimes you were
There
like,
you
oh
go.
man, like, I'm taking 6 months off, I'm taking this. But guess what? One opportunity can just turn everything around. The hustling that you could have done with your own effort, things can turn around. And seeing that, okay, life is not over, just because I took a 6 month break. And you said how you got into like Love is Blind. For me, you already know I'm a huge basketball fan. You already know I love basketball like with a passion. Like it's like they don't even have to pay me to be up on all the stats, all the teams, everything. Just ask, I'll tell you about it. But at the same time, I lean more into that in those moments. So you end up finding different things that like can bring you joy. And then it also shows the power of entertainment, right? How like you can feel connected, you can feel a sense of refilling even from that. But I digress. That was all to say that, take the time that you need to refill yourself. Life is still going to be there. And really, what is time? You're not on anybody else's timetable. You're on your own your own timetable. So when I leaned into that, because growing up in Vegas, like I feel like the population here is like mostly Mormon. I don't know what it is. Like people be graduating like fresh out of high school, getting married, getting all these things. Yeah,
That's
yeah. It's
interesting.
like Vegas,
Okay.
Utah. Like for some reason, it's like I feel like it's either like maybe agnostic, Christian, and then Mormon, I think. At least that, yeah,
Interesting.
that was most of
Okay.
the schools I grew up in, like very like that kind of like culture. So when growing up, even in college, most of my friends got married already. So I was like, man, like I need to be on a certain timetable. I need to be married by this. I need to have this. But then I kind of took the life like trajectory of more like you know what I'm saying, where it's like entrepreneurial, going to school, getting my money up, learning new skills, networking. But sometimes when you're not in a space where that's like represented, you could be like, dang, what's my timetable? But getting back into it, sometimes we do have life instances, and it's so crazy that the world has made it to a point where you feel guilty or you feel like you're going to miss out just because you've missed maybe 3 months, 6 months, even one
Yeah.
year. So I really do wish that needs to change. But the reason I highlighted it is because for some people who may be going through a time where it's like they're not working or there's a life situation, or people are losing their jobs, some people have to sacrifice and stay home to take care of maybe their children and stuff like that. Sometimes people need to hear that. And for somebody that's worked so many amazing jobs, is so successful, as that's how I see you, it's helpful for people to know, like, look, even at the very top, and I know you're like, I'm not there yet, you're still growing, obviously, but even
Yeah.
at a high level compared to most lay people, most regular people in the States, people still experience that feeling. So I think it is important to talk about. At the end of every show, I ask everyone questions. So the first question that I want to ask you, I know you've kind of like gone through it a little bit, but what was a struggle bus moment for you?
Okay. Fresh out of my hospital stint, I actually got laid off by media.
Really?
And I had a savings, but it wasn't where I think it ought to be with the expenses that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was in a relationship with a man that did not fulfill me in ways that you need in a
Right.
companion. Um, I was on the struggle bus. What you see now, I'm comfortable presenting myself like this before, but I was coming off of my hot girl era
Mm-hmm.
where my hair was always laid,
Mm-hmm.
my lashes were always extended,
Mm-hmm.
my face was always beat, and
Mm-hmm.
my clothes were always like starched,
Right.
like pressed.
Yeah.
Um, I felt like I was on the struggle bus because I would wake up every day and not even be motivated to get. I can move now, but I would not even be motivated to get out of that bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to clean. My house was a mess. My bank account was okay, but it was depleting. It was depleting. I wasn't working,
Yeah.
not in the capacity that I used to. So I felt like that was such a struggle bus, and I felt like I was blocked from hearing God too. Like no matter what I could do, what I did, but my mother and my grandmother were on me about going to Bill Winston's business conference, I think, or 10 City Tour. Bill Winston is a minister
Okay.
as well, and his ministry has to do a lot with finances
Mm-hmm.
and business. And they kept being on me about going to that mess. I was so annoyed because every time I spoke to them, it was always Bill Winston and this conference. And I'm glad I went for when I could go. Back to that boyfriend pulled me out of there because he wanted to do something that
Mm.
had nothing to do with anything. But I went and I finally felt like I heard from God again, and it motivated me to get out of my head and get out of my bed and get out of my rut and go after my money again.
Okay.
That's when I decided to become licensed and security licensed and start up my financial advisory. It's when I decided that the UDGRD isn't dead. Like what I used to do, managing artists and working on festivals and everything, it's not dead. It just can transition
Right.
into what I've now called the Jones Collective, and it has different prongs. There's the financial advising side, there's the marketing side, and all that I've done in entertainment, and then there's travel.
Yeah.
So it helped me revitalize. But I was such on the struggle. But like, child, I'm scared to show you how comfortable I was, or discomfortable, because I really wasn't comfortable. I would go outside like hair wasn't even somewhat braided; it just was like I don't know if you could tell me apart from a woman that lived on the corner at one point
Wow.
last year, because I was just so in my head and on the struggle bus. And I think it's important about who you align yourself with romantically, because I'm not blaming him. So if you ever see this, I'm not blaming you, but he didn't help, is
Got
what
it.
I'm trying to say.
Got it.
And he didn't know because he just didn't have the capacity to help me in those type of ways. And so, and then he had his own issues too that kind of flowed on over to me. But I was on the struggle bus.
Right.
I didn't even want to be seen by my friends. I didn't want my friends to come see me. It was a struggle mentally. Like I just felt like I was, getting laid off has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
That has to do with the company and their lack of resources and their lack of planning to continue you there. But I did take that on internally. It felt like I was terminated.
Mm.
I wasn't terminated though. I was laid off. In fact, they tried keeping me and they continuously call me every now and then and ask me, am I open for freelance work? So that's the beauty in it. But it felt like I was being rejected. So like that played a role in like just my psyche, and then not being treated well by somebody that you're with also plays a role.
At the same
So
time.
like yeah, and then seeing your account diminish and diminish because you're not working as much as you used to. Like it was a struggle mentally just to exist in the world daily. It was. And I didn't know what to tell friends like when they would hit me up. I'm just like, "Hey, Like, so, like, we're about to do this. Like, where you at? I'm at homecoming. I'm like, I don't know how to say this, but I
Yeah.
couldn't afford it. I got bills. Like, I
Yeah.
can't afford this.
Yeah.
And I'm old. So, like, not old. I'm not
You're
old. But,
not.
like, I'm older. I'm
Yeah.
beyond the point where I feel like that should be a struggle. So, it was tough.
Got it. I'm so happy
But
that you've come out of it.
God
Yeah.
and family and friends, actually. Friends who actually see me as a person and not just like a robot or whatever else that maybe people see me as,
Mhm.
noticed that, like, my tank was running on E. So it's important to have those type of people that recognize that and be like, oh, bro, um, can we talk about your house? Like, why isn't your house clean? Do you need help?
Mm.
Do you want me to help you clean your house? Do you want me to help cook some? I noticed you ain't eat for days. Like, is it a financial thing? Or if it's not a financial thing, like, do you want me to cook for you? Can I cook for you? Can I send some food your way? Like, your hair. Girl, you used to have that thing laid. Like, this is not you. This is not. And I don't want you to feel bad because I understand we all go through things.
Right.
Can I do your hair?
Mm.
It's it's important to have a community that recognizes that if you can't recognize. Because I didn't even realize, like, looking back, I didn't know.
Right. Because you're just so in
And I
it.
didn't mean to make this long,
No, it's
but like I
okay.
didn't even realize how much I was on the struggle bus maybe like a year ago. And I don't think anyone who only knows me from online even knew, because
Yeah.
I had memories to share. And it wasn't like I was that girl that's posting like I gotta stay consistent, because I was still doing things, but I was struggling
Mm.
mentally every day, financially every day, romantically, because, but like, no, I was struggling. I was on the struggle bus. Like, yeah, none of my bills went into default. That happened before too, but like, struggle bus. It was a struggle to
Mm.
exist for me. I was really contemplating not being here at one point.
Wow. I'm happy that you're out of that. I'm happy that you chose to hang on because you are a wonder and a necessity in this world. So I'm
Thank
happy
you.
that things have turned around, and I'm happy that though it was like hitting you in the career, hitting you romantically, I'm happy that you had friends and family and you could lean into your faith. Then that pulled you through. Shout out to those kind of friends because sometimes that's like so underrated. Can I cook for you?
Rhonda, if you're seeing this, that's to you. Chigo, that's to you. I got a lot of people I could shout out. And I even think that you and I had a conversation that you don't even realize. But we'll get to that after
Okay,
this.
yeah, you'll tell me after because sometimes, you be talking to people, or maybe I'm going through at the same time, but you just trying to help another person out and you don't even
You don't
realize
realize.
what you've said. So amazing. What moment were you most proud of yourself as it relates to your profession?
Another pinnacle moment in my career was going to Disney Studios, man. I know it's gonna sound like stupid to some people, but I'm a Disney kid. I grew up watching Disney shows, watching Disney animation, Pixar, all of that. I love Disney. I love
Same.
Disney World and Disneyland
Yeah.
and all the parks. I loved it. And you know, working for MediaCom at one point, there were people around me that made me feel like I was inadequate because I didn't have the experience and I was self taught. Um, some of them looked like me, some of them didn't. Some of them were of the same gender, some of them weren't. But they really did make me feel like I didn't belong and I wasn't like adept. I didn't know the know how to actually do a great job with a large brand like that, across search or social. But getting that job was another pinnacle in my career because that further opened up doors. It opened up doors for me to become a consultant corporately and independently
Mhm.
and work with studios doing contracts that I never in my life thought I would ever get if I pitched it on my own. Um, so I'm proud of being able to get that job, right?
Mm.
Because like I said, the experience I had prior to getting that job, I really was starting to think like, okay, I made it to this point, but like, maybe I should go to school, or maybe I should do something else
Right.
because I'm not getting the success that I thought I was getting. But there was a conversation with someone that I thought really hated my guts
Mm.
at MediaCom, where they told me, because I told them that I was leaving, how valuable I was, and I never would have knew that had I not accepted that interview with Disney.
Wow.
Um, because that person, and I don't know if it was a microaggression he had over someone who was more in a supervisory role to me,
Mm-hmm.
but that person was like maybe one of the main people that made me feel like I should not have been in that position to begin with. They passed me up when I first interviewed at MediaCom for a PlayStation account 2 years prior to me going to MediaCom and working on just social media
Mm-hmm.
instead of search. What's funny is being at Disney, I saw that person yet again in a different role
Mm-hmm.
when they were more like a regional district account holder
Mm-hmm.
for a third party that we used for our marketing at Disney.
Wow.
And they said again, you know, you're awesome, you deserve, you're smart. Um, so I think getting that job at Disney like really helped in a confidence boost, and it helped even the people that I don't really think actually saw me as valuable see me as
Yeah.
valuable all of a sudden. So I feel like that's a pinnacle. And not to mention the films that I worked on got Oscars that year. Okay, Soul got some of the got one Oscar for its music compilation. Now that wasn't necessarily something that I did, but Nomadland, I did the digital
Wow.
strategy for that, and that definitely won Best Picture, and I'm very proud to say that, as well as Cruella, Onward, um, Tamron Hall show, FX, Snowfall,
Wow.
Dave, Fargo. There's a lot that I
Doing
could
it,
mention, but
Atiera. Oh my goodness.
being getting that job, working with Disney Studios, I feel like that was a pinnacle in my career.
So the next question is, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is being able to do for yourself so well that it creates for others.
Mm. Love that, love that. And then the last question is, are you hiring?
Um, I would love to have a travel associate. And that's someone who doesn't mind being compensated in trips or and with a stipend. The stipend may not be huge to start, but there are bonuses, there are commissions that you can get yourself if you're also like securing your own clients. Not well, clients for me. Meaning, if someone wants to plan out their travel, and say it's a trip that we are paid to go on ourselves, if you're helping facilitate that, I do not mind cutting out anything that I'm earning for you, whether it's 10 to 20%. I don't mind. But I would love to have a travel associate. Especially when I'm hosting group trips, because those can be a lot. Even if it's just 5 people, it's still a lot of personalities to deal with. And there are events that we're doing overseas sometimes that need help facilitating, whether that's setting up the room before we're having our welcome brunch, or helping me find the DJ that's going to be doing the welcome reception of, you made it to Dubai and everything. So now we want to give you out your goodie bags and everything like that. So I am looking for help.
Okay.
Um, it's not full time work quite yet, but we can work to get there. But yeah,
And we'll
hit me
send
up.
out those
Don't mind.
details. Yes, we'll send out your
Yeah,
contact and those details. So thank you.
connect with me.
Yes. Also your LinkedIn. So all I can say is thank you so much. This conversation has been so wonderful, Atira. That was such an amazing conversation with Atira. She shared so many gems. She's such an amazing, humble, powerhouse woman. You definitely need to get connected and listen to the entire podcast because it's just been so amazing to have her. Until next time, besties.